My name is Holly Carroll. I'm a biologist with a passion for the great apes. But they're all endangered, and we're losing them much too fast.
This forest lost forever.
And I wanted people to see for themselves what's happening.
How amazing is this?
With a film crew, I traveled to some of the world's most remote forests to be the first to film all the apes in 3D in the wild.
Looks like the plane's stuck.
It was a daunting and sometimes perilous adventure, but always rewarding. Come with me now for a behind-the-scenes trip of a lifetime as I go walking with the great apes. Meet your cousins, the great apes. They are the largest and smartest of the primates, and their family includes the gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees, the bonobos, and of course, the humans. That's me. I'm a biologist, and I've been enchanted by the apes my whole life. But sadly, we're driving them to extinction. So I'm setting off to make a movie about their plight. I'll share what I learned on our website in the hopes that more people will get involved. But I'm new at this, so bear with me. I'm Holly, and I'm about to take us on a great adventure. Nah, I don't like that, sorry. I'm Holly, and I'm about to take us on a great adventure. And that is it's fiddly. I don't know, you guys. We leave the urban jungle of America and head for Africa and Asia, where the non-human great apes live. This journey actually began when a wild chimp named David Greybeard made contact with a young researcher in the forest of Tanzania in the 60s. That woman was Dr. Jane Goodall, founder of the Jane Goodall Institute, and the books she wrote about her life studying chimps read like adventure novels. My mom, a woman raising 2 young kids in Alaska, was so enthralled by her stories that she carved that chimp. It was just a little statue, but in some ways, he represented the life my mom couldn't have, but might be possible for me. Jane is now 79, and she still tells that enchanting story of a wild ape reaching out to her.
Follow him. And on this occasion, he went through a thick tangle of vines and thorns, and I lost him, I thought. But when I came through, he was sitting there just as though waiting, and maybe he was. And so I sat down near him, and there was a ripe red palm nut lying on the ground. So I held it out to him on my palm. And hold your palm out now, like so. I held it out to him. He turned his face away, didn't want it. So I put my hand closer, and he turned around. He looked directly into my eyes. He reached out, he took that nut, but he didn't want it. He dropped it, but then he very gently squeezed my fingers, still looking into my eyes. And that's how chimpanzees reassure each other, as you know. So in that moment, there was an absolute communication between beings of 2 completely different worlds, and possibly a way of communication that already existed 7 million years ago in our common ancestor, ape-like, human-like creature.
We are most closely related to the chimps and bonobos, sharing 98% of our DNA. When you look at them, it's pretty easy to see the family resemblance. There are 2 species of chimpanzee, the common chimp and the bonobo. They look very much alike, except the bonobos have distinctly parted hair and red lips. The bonobos also have different hips, which allow them to walk upright more than chimps. The chimps are spread across Africa, while the bonobos are limited to a single country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. They also really differ in their society. In chimp society, males are dominant and can be very aggressive. In bonobo society, the females lead, and they're much more cooperative and peaceful. There are essentially two species of gorillas, the western and eastern species, but they live either a lowland or mountain lifestyle, depending on where they're distributed. Most people are pretty familiar with those big silverback males, and though they may look intimidating, to me they seem like peaceful vegan bodybuilders. The silverback has a harem of many wives, and he needs to stay strong and vigilant to fight off any lone males that will try to steal some of his females. Gorillas spend much of the time feeding on vegetation on the ground, but they're surprisingly adept in the trees as well. Orangutans are the only Asian apes. There's one species found in Borneo and one in Sumatra. Unique among the apes, they're solitary except when breeding, and they spend almost all of their life in the trees, rarely ever coming to the ground. And with those long arms and legs, they seem like the acrobats of the apes. The males are nearly twice the size of the females, and upon maturity get these distinctive cheek pads. The orangutans have the slowest reproduction. She'll wait 8 years before giving birth again. Orangutans have such a gentle and serene nature, which make them really easy to love. Apes are often confused with monkeys, but a quick way to tell the difference is monkeys have tails and apes don't. The apes live in habitats that are usually hard to access. They're either swampy, tangled jungles, or dense mountainous forests. Slogging up this terrain with a film crew makes it so much more impressive to think that researchers do this every day for years.
That was a hell of a walk. And we're not even there yet.
But wow, the payoff of having a close encounter with wild apes in their natural habitat is a once-in-a-lifetime event. In fact, tourists are willing to pay park fees to have the rare experience of seeing an ape in the wild. And ape tourism is a profitable industry, which can motivate governments to value and protect their treasured apes and habitat. This has certainly been true for gorillas. Tourism brings billions of dollars to Rwanda and Uganda every year, and this money has helped to pay for essential services like ranger anti-poaching patrols. A portion of park fees even goes to community development projects. The great apes show a wide breadth of emotions. They're intelligent, self-aware, and have all been shown to make and use tools. This chimpanzee uses a particular type of grass stem, which he adapted to work as a termite fishing tool. If it's not working, he'll make a better one. A bonobo cracks palm nuts using a rock. These tool-use cultures are often specific to the species and the region. They learn them from their mothers and pass them through the generations. Research has shown apes are capable of communicating with humans using sign language, like Coco, who understands thousands of spoken words and can share her feelings and thoughts and even ask questions with signs.
Okay, that's a gorilla.
Welcome there. Where does it hurt? Right there. Okay.
In Japan, chimpanzees have been shown to perform some memory tests at faster speeds than humans. Apes maintain strong bonds with one another through the social activity of grooming. This process serves to remove parasites from the body, but it's also how they show affection to one another and how alliances are made. They spend hours of each day grooming within their family groups. I had to laugh because when you watch the males, it seems they put a bit less time and effort into the practice. Apes have a long childhood where they are totally dependent on their mothers for survival for up to 8 years. Like humans, the mothers dote on their babies, teaching and playing with them. And ape babies are painfully cute, with their big eyes and urge to hug and be cuddled. But this cuteness is a curse. Because humans all over the world want to keep them as pets to have and supposedly love. The cruel irony is, for every ape sold into the illegal pet trade, someone killed its family to get it. This traffic in infant apes for the pet trade is rampant. And often, these animals are kept in appalling conditions. If they're lucky enough to be rescued, they will need medical attention and will end up in a sanctuary. Despite the hard work of good people, many of them cannot be returned to the wild. And they still need the love and attention their mothers would have given them. At this bonobo sanctuary, I had a rare opportunity to play with some of the orphans. But as I held Kiboko, who was blinded by poor diet while kept as a pet, I was overwhelmed by the thought that he'd never be able to go home. For sanctuaries to be able to release the animals back into the wild, they need protected habitat to put them into. But sadly, the most serious threat to the survival of the apes is the destruction of their forest homes. They're being logged for timber, or cleared and burnt for plantations and mining. If we don't stop this destruction, it may be that one day the only place you'll see apes is in captivity. Unlike zoos, ape sanctuaries are non-profit organizations that rescue animals that have nowhere else to go. The people running them often care so much they can't bear to turn animals away, and conditions can get crowded. Because apes are so strong, they can be dangerous to humans and each other. So they need sturdy enclosures with complex systems for keeping them apart. And of course, they also need plenty of room to socialize and exercise. The sanctuaries are overflowing in Africa and Asia, but shockingly, they exist in Western countries too, where the entertainment industry, biomedical research, and the pet trade are still exploiting the apes. If they're lucky, they can have a more dignified life at a place like the Center for Great Apes, a sanctuary in Florida. Remember Michael Jackson's chimp, Bubbles? He ended up here when he outgrew his cuteness. The yearly costs of taking care of one ape can be up to $10,000, but they can live up to 60 years in captivity. This is a multi-million-dollar commitment, and they rely on donations. The money goes to pay the staff, maintain enclosures, cover utility costs, and of course, it buys thousands of pounds of food every week. You can help support these places by sponsoring an ape, donating supplies and toys, or even just volunteering your time.
Good night, girls.
This journey took us to incredibly beautiful places, but involved so much travel. It was sometimes exhausting, too. Trying to keep to a tight production schedule meant long days of hiking and filming and often more travel. And everywhere we went, we also had to deal with all that equipment. And 58 cases is not exactly traveling light. The guys had the toughest job. Because we were using a 3D camera, it was a bit more of a challenge to film than usual. It was big, heavy, and slow to set up. I was so glad I wasn't a cameraman.
Oh crap, this is not going to work. I just don't know why we've got the...
And of course, there were the hazards of filming around wild animals.
Oh my goodness.
The apes didn't seem to care if we were getting the shots we needed.
No bite. No bite.
But we had a lot of great memories and some good laughs, too. The people we met along the way were incredibly gracious and welcoming. Seeing people that are so happy living with so little was truly inspiring to me. And it's really special to meet people who share my love of apes. Not only did I have the privilege of meeting Jane Goodall, but I also got to pay my respects to another of my heroes. Diane Fossey was an aggressive conservationist until her death. She gave the ultimate sacrifice, but her passion motivated locals to continue her research. I also visited Birute Galdikas, who pioneered orangutan conservation and is still going strong in Borneo. And Ian Singleton, a man who's dedicated to rescuing and treating Sumatran orangutans. He tirelessly fights to protect the forests so he can bring them home again.
Free to go whenever you feel like it. If you look now, you can see she's grabbing some leaves.
When seeing the incredible work of dedicated people, sometimes I'd wonder, once I go back home, what can I really do to help the apes? What can anyone really do in their regular lives to help? But then I'd remember something Jane said.
You know, what can you say to regular people about how you can think about your daily choices? What kind of daily choices will actually have an impact for our
All of them, all of them. I think if people would just think about the consequences of the choices they make. You know, where does your food come from? Did it involve animal suffering? Has it come far, using lots of air miles or truck miles to get it there? Was it causing massive chemical pollution of the soil? And same thing with clothing and how you interact with people, animals, and the environment. If you think about the consequence of this thing I do now, it takes you on to Gandhi's famous comment, the world can provide enough for human need, but not human greed.
And then I was seeing that it really is possible to combine conservation and development. Like these women in Tanzania, who are doing community-based land use planning and planting trees for harvest. This kind of planning should be encouraged everywhere humans and wilderness collide. And here in a tiny village, they've developed a more efficient stove that's easy to make and produce, that uses a fraction of the wood that's needed with other stoves. At every opportunity, we in the West should also be striving to use more efficient appliances to reduce the fuels we consume. And at home, we can make more informed and earth-conscious choices with our purchases. Even just thinking about how much coffee I drink, if I buy products produced by cooperatives like this one, I know that local people are benefiting and their growing practices are sustainable. And it's a choice I can make every time I walk down a grocery store aisle. It may seem cliche, but if we take time to plant a tree with a child, maybe he'll grow up and fight for forests. Not only can we make better choices in our own lives, but we should strive to teach and inspire young people to care about the environment, people, and animals. I set out to make a film to share my love of the great apes. I believe we have the power to change cultures and behaviors and ultimately become better stewards than we've been. I've had the extraordinary honor of experiencing the great apes firsthand, and each one of them touched me in their own ways. I hope they'll touch you as well. Together, we can all make a difference for our closest cousins. Join me as we walk with the great apes.